Welcome back, questionnaires. You know the voice. I am Julian. My name today is Mr. Nobody, and with me is John Graham.
Hello, everybody.
Yes. I didn't. This is something that I actually didn't tell you, but I actually feel very honored that you choosing to be on the show because I was reading the what you put in the consent form and you wanted to spread positivity. So I just feel honored that you think this is a good show uh, to do that. So thank you. I hope hopefully you enjoy your time here. Before we get into the main question, I wanted to ask you how was your last 7-ish days?
Yeah, well, see, I'm writing, and I'm working. I wrote a book last year, and I'm writing a sequel now. And writing is it's like going to the gym.
Mm-hmm.
You feel very good when you come home. You feel tired, exhausted, but you feel like you've done something. But while you're at the gym, you feel like you're going to wolf your cookies, and that's what writing is like. It's just work. So I've been writing. In fact, I wrote my wife today because I'm out of town, and I said everything I wrote yesterday is all crap. So that's typical because writing is like a layer cake. You do one layer at a time until you finally have the finished product, but it's a pain in the ass getting there.
I can imagine. I'm not a writer in any sense of the word, but I do tend to jot down certain things every so often, and it I can understand.
But the problem, Julian, is that I'm trained as a journalist and also as an academic because I have my doctorate. And so I'm trained to do facts.
Okay.
And the truth is, facts are easy. You just find the
Mhm.
data, you put the data in a coherent form, and you use that to prove your point. But writing fiction is emotional. And it's like you have to layer colors over it. You start with a blank canvas and then you put the outline and then you put the basic colors, then you put another color and another color. And before you know it, you've got 17 layers.
Huh.
And then the painting takes on emotion. But it is so hard getting there that there are days that's why I went out and walked a couple miles just to get my mind clear. So that's why if I miss something is because it's 95 degrees here, so I'm a little fried this afternoon.
I can understand completely. It's been hot here in Atlanta, so I
Oh
completely
yeah, you're in
understand.
Atlanta, gee, that's a whole different breed of cat. You've got the heat and the humidity and the language barrier.
Yeah, yeah, but I've been here long enough to where I think I can manage, especially coming from Florida too. So I think I should be used to it at least. But
Well, at least in Florida, you have a breeze that makes you pretend that you're cooler.
that's true. That's true. But anything else going on in your last 7-ish days?
Uh, no, just the usual stuff with Good Samaritan Home. That's the nonprofit I run. Uh, we uh, we work with men and women coming out of prison, and what I learned 25 years ago was that it's what we call arrested development. And
Mm.
people who end up in prison many times, it's because they have a whole myriad of issues in their background that never allowed them to grow normally the way you and I would grow in a normal family. And that's why they end up breaking the law. So on a good day, a chaplain told me that you're dealing with high school, but generally you're dealing with junior high.
Interesting.
Emotional deprivation. It and then you factor in mental health issues and drugs. Whole different breed of cat with drugs.
I I can imagine that sounds. But the more I hear, the more interesting you become.
Yeah, I'd say about 80% of what we deal with is either mental health or addiction issues.
Okay. Okay. That
And
makes sense in my head.
that makes me much more sympathetic because when Nancy Reagan would say, just say no to drugs, spoken like somebody who's never been addicted.
Hmm. Yeah, no. So wow, that and you said 80% is
between alcohol and drugs and mental health. Uh, it's mental health. We do one of our programs is specifically dealing with mental health issues, and they're not necessarily handicapped. They're just damaged goods.
Mm.
But they too, when given a second chance, many of them can respond within their limitations. And basically, we just want them. They're not going to run for president, but maybe they can stay out of jail. That's what our goal is.
Okay.
Yeah,
No.
and just a job. Just get a job. And I like to say that most of my residents are riding on short ponies, so we have to shoot low.
It sounds like you're doing good work, though, and if you haven't heard it before, thank you for the work that you do.
Well, I appreciate that. It's not like I'm not some bleeding heart liberal. It's just I've required so many second chances in my own life that we started off by doing a homeless shelter 25 years ago, and that morphed into working with the Department of Correction. And the truth is that working with people coming out of prison is actually easier than working with a homeless shelter.
What? Really?
Yeah, I know. Because a homeless shelter, you have no filtering process. You have
Okay.
no oversight coming in. We don't know who's coming, and the mental health and addiction needs are exacerbated with the homeless clientele. So it's even worse, and you don't have the control that you have when somebody's on parole. Because if they're on parole,
Mm.
they're responsible to a parole officer.
Okay.
Yeah, we call it having a tail. That means that you can be yanked back to prison.
Got you. Okay, this is making so much sense to me. But I can we put a pin in this part of this conversation? I might want to come back to this right now.
Yeah,
Can I
no
just
problem.
share my 7 days real fast so we can get to the main question, because this is very fascinating to me, and I will be very sidetracked really fast with this conversation. But for my last week, it's actually been a nice week for the most part that I can remember. I feel like I can only remember up to Wednesday, but I know yesterday I went to my friend's event. It was a pop up, really good time, and I stayed out later than I was supposed to, but it was worth it because it was good people. Oh, Wooski, I should I say it like you know the person, but my friend Wooski had a pop up, and she does clothes, and there was an outfit that I actually wanted to buy. I just couldn't get it. Um, I met another person named Marco. Hopefully he listens. But other than that, I can't think of any. Oh, something else that about my life. There's a whole car situation that I'm dealing with due to being a co-signer. It's a very long story.
I've heard it before. Trust me. Yeah.
But this week, I'm trying to resolve that issue, and I just needed to call United Auto. But my birthday's wrong in the system, which is delaying everything else. So that's something else I was trying to resolve, is just getting my birthday right. But that's been my week so far.
Well, your week can be more frustrating than mine because if you're a co-signer on any sort of legal document, that has a lot of strings to it. You have my
Yeah.
sympathies.
Thank you.
It's probably a friend or a family member, which makes it even worse.
Yeah, you guessed it. It was a friend, and the more I tell my story, the more common that I hear that someone else is in the same situation as me, which is terrible.
My best advice to anyone is whatever you sign, are you prepared to lose it all? And if you are, then they don't have any hold over you. But if you need the money, it's like gambling. If you need the money, you shouldn't gamble.
Yeah, that's true. I like that, but I guess we should get into the question just a little bit. You did bring it up earlier. But the question today is, do you think people deserve a second chance? So I'll let you answer first.
If I may give some background, that might help.
Yes.
I mentioned that I have a doctorate. It's a doctorate in theology, but I didn't get that doctorate until I was 61 years old. And I didn't start Good Samaritan Home until I was 53 years old. I'm currently 76. And what I've learned when I met my wife, I was at the time 29, and I had burned through several careers by then. And I was homeless. I was living in my truck, and they repossessed my truck. Everyone told my wife to not date me and absolutely don't marry me because I didn't have a future. I was a rake and a rambler. And she married me anyway and stuck with me for the past 48 years. And my point is that coming from where I came from with my background, I didn't have the tools to run a sprint like many people. They go to college, they get a job, they get a big house, they have 4 kids that are all perfect. And I found that some of us don't even know where the starting line is, let alone how to run a race. So what I've learned, Julian, is that life is a marathon, not a sprint. And there's a lot of times when we fall down in the race, but we have to get up. We need second chances. And in my case, I need about a dozen of them. And that's not an exaggeration. I was a door-to-door salesman. I was a truck driver. I was a fireman. I was a building contractor, moved through 4 states with that business. I was a journalist. I was even a minister at one point, but I wasn't very good at it. And so I ended up running Good Samaritan Home. It's a nonprofit dealing with homeless persons. And I did that because I had been in all those places. And I simply offer them what people offered me, was that the second, third, or fourth chance. So I've never been to prison, but I certainly understand where a lot of these guys came from. And it's almost always family issues.
Yeah, no, wow, that's again, that's really great. I'm probably gonna be in awe every time you say something about your story because I'm just amazed by your story. Because for me, me, I don't. To answer the just the main question, I think people do deserve a second chance, but but I try not to use this the word depending on situation. I think for minor things, for things that don't, I'll put it like this. I will say for anything that doesn't involve, if you can tell, I try not to think of the question beforehand. That way you can get my full thoughts. And I want to say, like something like murder, you should get a second chance, but with limitations and guidelines, and you have to earn people's trust. That's what I want to say, because it's some things you can't take back, and that's one of them.
Well, maybe it helped if we can have a graduated second chance or a gradient, because second chance for a murderer might be the fact we're not going to execute you. It's one of the reasons why I feel the death penalty has so many concerns, because it says what you've done is irreparable. You can never do anything to make your life any better and help anybody else with your life. You're beyond hope. And even if that requires a lifetime in prison, that's still a second chance. Because I have seen people change their lives. It just wasn't the same as it was before because the damage was irreparable.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean your life is not irreparable.
Yeah, I agree.
You'll never be the same. And maybe you might be better but you'll definitely be different.
Mm.
So I think even if there are some crimes that require execution, we had executions after the Nuremberg trials
Hmm.
because we had crimes against humanity. I would say there are always extenuating circumstances where somebody their second chance might be only a short time, and they're executed in a more humane way than the people they executed.
Mm.
So I would say I'm not absolutely opposed one way or the other. I'd say everything has to have some degree of a second chance because we are moral beings.
Yeah. So, with that being said, then, is there? I guess my question is, what's your limit for a second chance? Like, has there ever been a time where you found it hard to give a second chance to someone?
Oh, absolutely. We've housed and mentored 2,500 men and women over the past quarter century, and some of them are repeats. We call them
Mm.
frequent flyers because they they're either gaming the system or so ill-equipped that this is all they know. So think of our housing as it's for the outcast among the outcast, because these are people coming from prison who have no family, nowhere to go, no bridges to anyone. So they are outcast among prison outcasts.
Mm.
So, and there are some, they burn bridges with us because they've been with us and they've taken advantage of it, or even physically taken advantage of the situation. And we would say, we don't feel we could let you come back now unless there's been some evidence that you've made an effort.
Mm.
So Ronald Reagan said, he used the term with the Russians, trust but verify. So and so we have we don't simply say here's a free place to live, do what you want. We hold people accountable for primarily for housekeeping. If we give you a free bed and a free place to live temporarily, then you're expected to keep it clean out of respect for yourself, and that means make your bed in the morning. And that's not just for our decoration purposes. That means that you're going to go out and look for a job and you're going to be rejected 10 times today because of your record. But when you come back at night, if you see your room is clean and your bed is made, at least you know that something went well today. And that's a survival instinct. It's a way of saying that I can't control getting a job, but I can control my corner in this room.
Mm.
And the
Yes.
truth is, that's an old Navy SEAL tactic. That's what they teach them in Navy SEAL training.
I've heard start off with a small win is how has been introduced in my life. Is to start off with a small
Absolutely.
win.
So we don't offer a blanket amnesty that says you just keep coming back and do what you're doing, and we'll just keep forgiving. It's a way of saying I'll meet you, but you have to take responsibility. Uh, I like to say we're not a hug-a-thug program.
I like that. Because and you said exactly what I was thinking. That you need to be held accountable and you need to show effort, because with my own life, with my own situations, that's been the case where for whatever the reason, there was trust in the relationship, but once the trust was broken, uh, I would want me personally. I would love to have a second chance with with certain people, but like you said, not showing that you want. If you're not putting in any effort, at some point I had to open up my eyes. Like there's no effort being put in, because for case this is actually an example where I actually gave someone a second chance. The person that I'm dealing with, the car loan situation, this has been going on for 2 years, and when the friend blew up on me, even though I wasn't trying to make a big deal about it, and I just walked away. Didn't speak to him, didn't reach out, nothing. I was forced to reach out to him earlier this year, and I was giving him a second chance because it showed from his presentation. He showed that at least he said it, that he cared, didn't mean for it to get this far, and he was trying to fix the situation.
Yeah.
But even though when I gave him the second chance, with in a month's time, just blew up on me again. So I just walked away again, and that's a situation that I, along with other factors, I'm like, I'm not trying to stick around and give him a third chance to keep
Well,
toiling with me.
without getting into personal details of this co-signing issue, if it reached the point where you have money at stake that is willingly not being repaid and you're accountable for that note, there's nothing that says that you can't forgive and still go to court, because that's part of the accountability. And actually,
Yeah.
you show respect by saying, I'll hold you accountable to your agreement, because by not holding you accountable, you're saying that you don't even respect them enough to meet them at that level. So that again comes back to trust but verify, and
Yeah.
verify sometimes requires that people have their feet held to the fire.
Yeah.
Here, let me ask you this, or give us example. Sometimes in court, you'll see the victims' families will stand up and say to the fellow who's just been convicted, I want you to know that I forgive you and I don't hold anything against you. And that's a very admirable statement, but it has a tendency to be washed over, particularly in the Christian church, where they put so much value on forgiveness, but it can be a very superficial understanding. Forgiveness, on its very basic level, simply means I won't hold my anger. That doesn't mean you're not accountable. It means that I'm not going to hold on to this sense of vengeance. It's a letting go forgiveness, and you're still going to prison, or you're still accountable for the note that you borrowed. But I'm not going to hold on to my anger.
Yeah, no, that's where I'm at least with that situation. And then there's another situation where friends, I would we had a falling out, and I'm sticking out my hand to hopefully try to, because I already know the friendship will never be the same. But I'm like, I would hope that we can rekindle something. But again, it takes two to tango, and so.
There you go. And we use the term, you're just not ready for our program yet. Yeah, you can come back when you're ready.
Oh, I like that. I like that. Ooh, I think I mentioned this before. I also wrote down some backup questions too. And one question that is there any moment in time where you would want a second chance? Like, I know you said you got several second chances, but is there one that sticks out in particular, or something you would want to redo?
Well, I do regret that so many of the things I ended up doing right, I had to do so late in life, because the most obvious example is that I struggle deeply to write an emotional story, because I don't have the long history and background in literature that many people have. So I've had to teach myself, and I have to work very hard. And in a sense, I need affirmative action. And so, let's put it in racial terms. The whole principle behind affirmative action is there was a class of people that, due to something beyond their control for 400 years, they were held behind in the race. And affirmative action says that we want to help you. The problem, I believe, is that many people in the Black community expect that to come immediately and easily. And there's a lot of work that accompanies affirmative action. And because you are behind in the race, Dr. King would say you have to run harder and faster to even find the starting line.
Yep.
And that's how I feel. And this is a simplistic statement, but I have a great deal of sympathy for minorities who are struggling, because there are some of us who struggle, and it's not our skin color, it's our lack of background, and that's universal. We've started in a place where we don't have the tools. And so when I hear somebody say, a black man say to another black man, you're trying to talk like a white man, you're trying to talk like a Tom. Uh, that's a way of saying I'm not going to even bother with the race. I'm not going to bother trying. And I think they sell their whole community short when they say that. And the best example is Barack Obama, who can excel in any world. Yeah, I would follow that man to hell and back, because he strikes me as a man who's reasoned, and he's developed emotionally, and he lives his politics, and he seems to live his faith in his family. So that has nothing to do with color. It has to do with his character.
Yes. And then speaking on the character, ironically enough, this is the second time I'm actually having a conversation like this within the past, I think, month. And something that was also brought up was there's not, I'm not going to say for everyone, but there's also like a shame factor that also comes into, at least this is me kind of parroting what the person said. Is like there's some people who can't get around being in a situation where they're not even at the starting lines and they don't want to ask for help. So I know that's also what was brought up to me. But something else that you said was regret, and I'm curious. Do you think regret and having a second chance, are they the same thing?
I think regret is like the limp that you get after you've had an accident. You can heal your broken leg, but there are certain consequences that accompany that, and the limp is one of the things. And one of the terms I use in my book, the book is called "Running as Fast as I Can," and that's the one I just finished. And the basic premise is that some of us are running as fast as we can. We just can't catch up with what we call normal people because we've got a limp. We were born with a limp. There might be, particularly today, it might be a single family where there's no father, or it might be drugs or alcohol in the family, or it might be just plain bad choices that you made when you were barely an adult, and you made mistakes that were maybe you were a victim first, and then you became a victimizer. And so that's a limp. So you will never run as fast as somebody else who didn't have that, but you can still keep moving. So many people I deal with have regret, mostly with the women. It's, I want to be a mother to my children. Number one issue.
Oh, wow.
And the key, though, is, are you willing to make changes so that you can be that mother that you want to be? That means a job. That means a different boyfriend, and it means also staying clean. And I call it a pronoun shift. You're shifting from I to we.
I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah, to me, that's a summation of rehabilitation. What got you to prison was I, and what'll keep you out of prison is we.
Nice. No, and I like that. And but to answer my own question, I don't think regret and second chances are the same thing. And I think in my mind, I see second chance as a redo.
Yeah.
Because as seeing it as in a positive aspect of things, if people want a second chance at renewing their vows, is something that I thought of. Rather it because I can think of two situations of why someone either they got divorced and are trying again with a marriage, or they were still in a marriage and as a ceremony they still want to renew their vows, which I've seen only happen on TV. But I think that's another way of having a second chance to kind of recommit to something that you want to make happen. I think those are the words I want to say.
Well, let me push the point. Would you call a second marriage to another person a second chance?
I think yes. I'll say yes, because if depending on how the first marriage went, it probably left some scars, and I'm just gonna say like fear of this of the what if situation of what if this happens again, and so the whoever's choosing to get remarried is going past that to get a second chance on with a different person.
The whole basis of our legal system is premised on this idea of second chance. The idea that you can get a do-over, and the basis of our religions is that same principle that we're not bound forever to our mistakes in the past. The divorce laws have been greatly relaxed, and there are obviously social consequences to that. But the basic premise of that idea is that if you married somebody and it turned out to be a bad decision, how do you redo or undo that? And the answer is a divorce law. The problem is that if you don't address the issues that got you there, you'll end up in the same abusive situation again.
Mm-hmm.
We see that with many women.
I can. Okay. No, I can easily see that, especially going back to your the I and we statement. If and just everything you've been saying, if you haven't done the work to change or to even address what caused you to go down that path in the first place, like the saying goes, those who don't know history are doomed to repeat it. Right. So if you don't know why, you just fall into the same pattern unconsciously until you break the cycle.
Well, what came to my mind as you were talking was that the first pilgrims who came to our country in 1619, they came because they wanted a second chance. Their reasons were religious, but actually they were political. They wanted to govern themselves. Mm. And so they were willing, they moved from England to Holland and then ultimately to America. And we think of that's a 6-hour flight, but it was, 3 months of just death-defying sailing across the ocean. And at the Jamestown settlement in Virginia, virtually everybody died in that community because it was so difficult. They were ill-equipped, but they were willing to come across the ocean to a foreign, not just country, this was a wilderness. You literally could die on the journey, and you definitely will die in the community because it was so rough. But they felt that they desperately wanted that second chance, and they kept coming back and coming back. And so we are a land of second chances.
No. And I think, at least here in America, that second chances are frowned upon at for the most part, where people, I don't want to use the word belittle, but just look down upon people who try to pick themselves up. Because in a previous episode, that was actually the case too, where someone in a homeless shelter, the story is, homeless person wasn't causing any problems or anything, and was just sitting in like on a abandoned house or something. I'm probably telling you the story wrong, but he would keep showing up and everything, and then one day a neighbor saw him, still wasn't causing any problems, just because he didn't like the way the person presented. Called the police on him, and the police even knew that this is a person who returns to the same spot. They just said, like, you have to go somewhere else for a little bit before, because they were called in. So I'm not sure if I'm going on a tangent or not, or if this even makes sense, but
yeah. And when we started Good Samaritan Home, I thought they would find support in the community, and it did in a section of the community. But we had so much political blowback. We had neighbors who passed petitions. We had calls to the city council. We had laws, ordinances passed that tried to prohibit us. We had death threats. I even had one fella, a mentally ill person, who stabbed me in front of the courthouse because of the political. I had police protection going to some meetings because of that very thing. We don't want those people in my neighborhood. And the truth is, yeah, in fact, I just had a call last week from our very first resident from 25 years ago. He's
Mhm.
he's got married. He's been married for years. He raised her children. He's had a job. He owns a house, and he's doing everything right. But when he came, everybody was afraid that he would ruin the neighborhood. And the truth was, he was afraid of them. But that begs the question. Today in politics, the number one issue is immigration. And is that not saying the same thing? Those people who want a second chance because they're coming from a country where their lives are at risk, either economically or physically, and they are desperate because they've heard if they work hard in America, they can get a second chance and a do over.
Mhm.
And we have a president who says all those people are rapists and murderers, and they're criminals, and they're here to attack us. And it's no different than what the white community used to say about the black community. That
Yeah.
if we free those people, they're going to attack our women. And it's incredible in that fear of the mysterious other.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And going off your point, I think in today's time we've stepped away from what the nation was founded upon, was basically a second chance, like you were just saying. Also thinking of just like how you were dealing with people with felonies trying to get a job or anything, where we what we say we want people to have a second chance, but make it very difficult to even live for the most part.
That's right. I think many of us are like Thomas Jefferson. We believe in equality theoretically,
Mm.
but we still own slaves. And in fact, George Washington was the same way. That he had promised to free his slaves, but he didn't after he died because he didn't want his wife to suffer without the free labor. And Jefferson had the same problem. And ironically, Jefferson died with massive debt, and they had to sell his beloved home just to pay off his debts after he
Mm.
died.
Yeah.
I think of Dr. King, who, to my knowledge, when he died, he had very little to his name, but he left a legacy with what he said and what he did that probably surpasses anything we could ever put in the bank.
Mm. Yeah.
In fact, he was asked that very question. What do you want to have remembered about you after you're gone, sir? And he said, I don't want you to talk about my doctorate. I don't want you to talk about my Nobel Prize. I don't want you to talk about all the awards I've gotten. I want you to say that and he was quoting from a hymn, I want you to say that I tried to help somebody as I passed along. I
Mm.
tried to make the world a little better. And that's this. Just remember, I tried to do God's will, is what he said.
Yeah. No. You got. I'm speechless about this. I have no comment on that aspect. Um,
Well, and let me push it even further. What you are doing with this podcast, is that not the same thing?
that is the goal. That.
You are asking people to think. And in this culture today, where everything is put on Facebook and now with AI, you have no idea what's real and what's not. But we become very skeptical and we just tune out. And that to me is the danger. We're just going to tune out. And what you're doing is you're shoveling against the tide by saying, think, think. Let me ask you a question. So you deserve the credit today.
Thank you. No, that that is absolutely what I'm trying to do for sure, because that's yeah, no, you you nailed it on the head. I am trying to get people to think. I'm trying to have and frame it in a positive light. I say if you were stuck in an elevator, or just trying to talk to anyone, just to make friendly conversation, here's more than just a how are you doing and just move on with a good or anything, but to actually strike more conversation with just everyone. But thank you for noticing that.
The conversation, you've made me think, and you've actually pulled answers out of me. So if you're doing this with everybody, you're doing a very good job.
Thank you. That I'm going to be clipping that and just saving that. But one question I did ask that I do have another question. Hopefully, I can get you to think a little bit more. Would you want a second chance even if you knew that the outcome wouldn't go the way you want it? Because I think that's the other thing about second chances is that you want a second chance because you think if you do X, Y, and Z, that you will get the outcome that you're looking for. But would you still want that second chance, even if you?
Well, the very definition of the term second chance is the key word is chance. So the chance means opportunity, the possibility. I just want to try one more time, but the outcome is up to me. I just don't want where I really get frustrated is when I have no options. When I have no here a good example was when I worked 10 years writing my novel, and I had a professional editor work with me for the last 2 years to where we felt we had a very good readable book, but we couldn't get any agents to look at it because number one, my age, and I didn't have the large Facebook marketplace. I wasn't an influencer, and I'm not a pretty face like you get on Facebook, a hard body I call them. and so all these 24-year-old New York agents I would give them a quick overview of my book, and they would say no, 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 and it was rejected 200 times. And that was so frustrating because I couldn't get a second chance. So what I ended up doing was forming my own publishing house. And I took control of that, and I hired a publicist, and she and I have been able, and now we've sold literally 17,000 copies of the book, and it's garnered 37 awards.
Congratulations.
Because we took a second chance. But we didn't sit there and say, okay, I'm going to do nothing. I've worked much harder at publishing than I ever did at writing.
I can imagine.
So to answer your question, yes, if you had a guarantee, that's not a second chance. A second chance, by definition, is simply another redo. What you do is up to you.
And that actually got me thinking about everyone's career is basically a second chance, especially for the ones who, let's just say, who go to college, have a degree and everything, apply for whatever job in their field, and they are told no, and they keep being told no constantly. And so that's one part, and then the other part is how I want to say is people's dreams and desires are what you were saying is a second chance of them not giving up on themselves. That's kind of what I just what I'm getting out of this. And I never even thought about that before today.
Yeah, what I keep saying is just keep moving, keep running, because once you stop running, wherever you are, that's where you will be. And my wife was she wanted to go to college because she grew up in a very difficult background, but she was always told she was retarded when she wasn't retarded. She was just a pain in the ass in school to the nuns. And but it took her 28 years to finish her associate's degree because she had no tools. Then she had to learn how to use a computer, but she kept trying. And so many times she would say, I quit. And we would simply say, let's do it one more time. and we'd walk up the steps to her desk and just try one more time, and she'd cry. But the day she graduated, it was like proof that she wasn't retarded.
I
We
love
still
that.
talk about that.
I love that because, and that's kind of where I'm mentally at right now because in my mind, it feels like I'm in a boxing ring and I'm just going round after round after round, uh, taking punches, taking blows, taking the hits, trying to learn, but still keep going, just getting back up, try and keep trying to take on the next challenge, no matter how difficult that is. That's this whole podcast actually, because there's been more than enough challenges for me to say I want to quit. But I give it a, in I guess to keep in context, I give it a second chance to say I can do it one more day.
You remember what Rocky said in the movie? He said he wasn't worried about winning. He just wanted to be standing at the end of the fight. He just wanted to be up, vertical.
Yeah,
And that's what you're doing. He just kept moving. He kept bobbing and weaving, and he kept in the fight.
that's exactly what I'm trying to do right now.
Yeah.
And thank you. I want to talk to you so much more. But I said an hour, hour and a half. But the floor is yours. I'll give you the floor to say whatever, unless you have more you would like to talk about.
Well, I just want to encourage people. The reason I wrote the book was because whenever I talk to people about second chances, particularly when I was trying to convince people about our program, nobody listened to the data. Nobody listened to the facts. If I were to introduce you to, say, I have a man who's just gotten out of prison, would you hire him? You probably would say no. But if I could tell you a story of what he did that showed his humanity,
Mm,
if I told you a story of where he came from and how he got to prison and how he's spent his time there trying to change his life, that story would make you much more sympathetic. And in fact, that's why I wrote the book. It's a fictional story about a young man who grew up in an abusive family where he had no skills, and then he was abused by his own pastor, which made it worse. And he
mm,
spent years struggling through all the turmoil of the 1960s, trying to create a new family. But when you don't have the background, it takes some of us longer. And that's why I think the story has sold so well, because the truth is that statistics show that the average book today that's published sells no more than 250 copies over its lifetime.
mm.
Most books don't sell well, but mine has done very well because I believe people see themselves in the book. So if I, and it's not about the money, because I've given away so many thousands of books. And the idea is I want people doing what you and I are doing. I want them to discuss the idea of second chance, and I want them to give themselves a second chance. So if I can encourage people to go to my website, and you can either get an ebook for $5 or you can download several chapters. Right now, if you're on Kindle Unlimited, it's free. So I want you to just read the book and see about Daniel Robinson so you can see a story of second chances. And if that would help your life, then I would say that my life has been successful. I've helped somebody else, like Dr. King said.
And you just thought while you were, yeah, describing your book, it made me think of that a second chance is humanity. How people, how, yeah, how human other people see you. That's kind of what I was getting from it. Is the more second chances someone provides to you, the more human. I could, and again, I could be, but it just that's what I was trying to get at. Is this a second chance is a form of humanity.
It makes us all more human. Yeah, here's the funny thing, that the sequel I'm writing is called Requiem, which is a term that means a remembrance of the dead. But I'm now writing about focusing on one of the characters. He was the man who was in prison. He was a black man, and I'm writing the book from his perspective.
Okay.
and which is interesting because I have to unlearn my background to learn his background. And what I've learned so far is that the white character in the first book and the black character in the second book had different backgrounds, but the same. You may have different words, different geography. You may have different conversations, but it's the same. We're all running the same race.
Yep. That is very true. And going back to that conversation that I had about a month ago, that's what this person was saying too. Is he was saying he got the lines from Tupac actually, uh, or I think but it was basically the line was we all breathe the same air, so suck it up and and deal with it. In
Yep.
essence.
Now, it's interesting. You used to say Tupac because my first thought was I try to quote Merle Haggard, but he's what I call the hillbillies poet.
That's great.
By the way, Merle spent time in prison. Do you know that?
I did not.
Yep. Yeah, he was very worried because he was when he was released, he was concerned that people would not forgive him for his prison time until Johnny Cash told him to embrace it. That's part of what got you here.
Mhm.
Don't run from it. And it made him very sympathetic to his listeners because they felt like he was one of them.
I like that. And on that note, I want to give you the thing because it actually corresponds to exactly what you just said. It's something that I found on social media. It's from an Instagram account, Neuron Vision. And the thing is, in order to love who you are, you can't hate the experience that has shaped you.
That, in a nutshell, is what we've been saying all along.
Yep.
Yep. And there was if I think that's the essence of blackmail is when you try to hide your secrets, then you end up pulling inward and inward and inward, and you never allow people into that because you're afraid if they know who you really are, they'll reject you. But if you say, this is who I was, but I'm not that person anymore. I'm that person who's been, I have a limp, but now I'm walking. I think we all need affirmative action is what I'm saying.
And then you said blackmail, embrace. There's a thought in my head that I'm gonna remember this for a while because there's something about you saying blackmail and not accepting it. There's a thought that's I have to expunge and figure it out. But man, I really wish I can get my thoughts in line to figure out what I want to say with it. But I would definitely reach out to you when I have it.
It's part of the aging process. The things that we hear, we forget.
But thank you, John. This has been a great conversation. I hope you're willing to come back anytime you feel like it.
Listen, you actually made my day. It was a hard day today, and we're going to close it on a better note. So thank you.
I'm glad I can make it a better day for you. And then I just want to do the proper closeout, which is don't forget to ask yourself, ask others, and never stop asking questions.